Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, today I have Yasir Drabu on the line, and he's co-founder and CEO over at Taazaa. And we're going to talk about building high-performing engineering teams. So Yasir, first off, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here, Adam.
All right, so we got a whole lot to talk about today. I want to talk about the growth of Taazaa, how you built the company. I want to get into like some of the things that made you successful along that way. Also talk about, what are some of the plans going forward for Taazaa and what type of projects you typically find are the best fit for people looking for developers. But before we get into all that, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So Yasir, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Yasir, what mission matters to you?
I think the impact of software on humans, right? So the reason I started the company itself was really around when I saw terrible software being built that had horrible experiences in terms of for people. So our mission is really focused on building software for people who use them, making their life delightful. Now, it can be in the mid-market segment, which is where we focus. Companies that have been around have found a good product market fit, but have all these different siloed systems that they try to put together, either for their employees or for their customers. And we come in with an innovative mindset, with a consumer brand approach like Uber and others that people are used to, and try to bring that into the enterprise as well as the customers who end up using them. So at the end of the day, it's a matter, how do we make the life of every human that who touch our software better, that when they use it, there's a little bit of a smile, there's a little bit of joy. Essentially, that drives us actually. And when we see people do that, that's really our mission: is how do we build that category leading product innovation in the space that we focus on, which is in the mid-market. So.
Love it. Love bringing mission-based individuals on the line to share why they do what they do, how they're doing it, and really what we can all learn from that so that we can all grow together. So interested to hear more of your story. Like, where did the entrepreneur side come from? Like, did you always have it in you? Like, where did that come up from? Let's start at the beginning.
Right. So I think it was always there. I mean, I remember having a little bit of a small commerce activity during high school, where I would sell unique items that were very rare back in India. I'd find them at the foreign markets and sell them, whether it was pens or unique stickers from Japan and things like that. I think it was always there. But
whoa, hold on. I gotta go a little bit further in that one. We got some commonality here. So my original, my first maybe business endeavor, I think it was baseball cards for me. It was baseball cards. I'd go shop and find like the cards that I felt were rare. Then I'd take them to school and then sell them. And I think that were comic books. So hold on. So you were going and you were hunting for rare items or stickers and things like that, and then bringing them to school?
Yeah, and kids love them. I mean, there was a good margin because they were so rare to find.
Yeah.
And I actually had to find them in various places, and eventually they would become common, and kids would come back and say, now they're not as unique. But when they just came out from an opportunity standpoint, I think there was a little bit of a hustle in high school. I think but then I evolved into got into technology, and things changed from there. And I got more into computers and programming, and then
when did the tech part, when did that make its way? Do you remember when that made its way into your life?
That was way early, like in 8th grade.
Wow.
Back in the day, I don't want to date myself. Commodore 64 was very rare in India, and I had a very good friend whose dad bought a Commodore 64 on his trip back from the US. I used to cycle like 5-6 kilometers or a few miles to his place, and then we would sit and program games just for fun. And we used to use tape drives to load them back in time.
That's amazing. It's okay to date yourself. We're giving history here now. This is an important part of history, man.
So that's when it started, and the curiosity kept building. I mean,
How did you know? Did you know at that time, or was it just like being a kid and you like just started like it was just your toy? It was a fun thing to do, like, or did you just have this?
Yeah, there was no grand plan really. I just enjoyed doing it. I loved doing it, and I just kept getting better at it. And then focused my career on engineering. Came here to do my master's and eventually PhD, thinking I would become a professor. But that bug carried in towards the later part of my grad school is when I was like helping people, advising them, and it kind of became like an accidental venture to start with. And
Hold on. So how was the support? How was okay? So I got to stay in the accidental venture part of it because how was the support system around that? You don't have to call out any specific parent or anybody else, but I know sometimes like you're going to school to be one thing and then they're like, wait a minute, you're going to be an entrepreneur. I thought you were going to be a professor or this or that. Like how was your experience?
I think my mom always was supportive. She was the one always pushing me, and my dad, he's like, "Why are you doing this? I mean, you're supposed to be doing something else."
You can't get both parents. Like there has to be opposites there because that's makes the marriage work. That's what makes the kid sane and successful. Like you, if both of them were like, "Go for it," then probably it would have been a bad.
Then you get arrogant, and then you kind of forget you lose the humility of you have to prove somebody one way. My dad, not as much of a risk. He's risk averse.
Yeah.
He taught me a lot of good things about humility and other things. But when it comes to risk, why do you want to take on it, start an entrepreneurial venture where you don't know whether you're going to get paid the next month? but
especially when you're highly educated. So that's the thing. Like, and that's where I feel like maybe sometimes many would-be entrepreneurs don't go for it, sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. I was like, worst case, it fails, I can go back and find a job. was my mentality towards it. But what I really enjoyed was the helping aspect, and when you make a difference, and I used to help much smaller businesses back then, and you would see that, oh my God, I solved their problem. I saved them several hours of doing this manual thing, which was so painful. Now it's a simple automated Windows app or something like that. So things like that really kind of helped me build into that direction. So.
Amazing. So let's fast forward a bit, and thank you for sharing that. And shout out to mom out there who supported it, and thank you, dad, for being the other side of the coin there. Like, what are you doing, man? we need both of those voices in our ear, and I'm always grateful to have parents and support systems around that provide guidance. So I love your story. Let's fast forward a bit here. I want to get into Taazaa. How did the idea for Taazaa come about? Like, take us there.
Before this, I was doing another venture with somebody, and it kind of grew well, but like many partnerships, hard to diverging interests, and I had to go back to school. And at the end of it, I was like, okay, let me have a fresh start. And Taazaa really came from like, I want to help people with a fresh approach, with a fresh start. And the domain was available, very honestly. so and it started, and I wanted to go back, and that feeling of helping others and creating an impact where you could make a meaningful difference. I mean, I always say if I knew how to make better cars, I would do that. But this is what I knew, and this is how I could contribute and give back to society. So that's kind of where it started. Very little. Some way it was like, how do I make a little bit of money, but also help others? It was a combination of those two factors, very honestly.
So how was getting those first initial customers? Like how did that the acquisition? So now you have this idea, you launch the company, now we got to make some money. Like how'd you pull it off?
So I think I had built goodwill by doing a lot of helping people, and they were like, hey, if you want to, there's somebody who needs more help. And I had a lot of goodwill built up that way. So I reached out, and in fact, one of the reasons that triggered me starting the company was I was already helping somebody, and they were like, "I need more." I was like, "Okay, then you need to pay me. I can't keep doing this for free." That's when I had to set up the company and other things to kind of help them further. So that led to one referral to the other. It grew by just word of mouth, where I did some good work with somebody, help them launch their website and then build a little app, and then it kind of started there. And then I had, because of the previous venture, I also had some relationships where I'd helped people who had really enjoyed working with me as I was going through that. So some of those came back. I think they say no good deed goes unpunished or whatever. But
Oh yeah.
but I think helping people along the way, just without any expectation, has a amplifying reward structure built in, which personally makes you feel good that you help somebody. But in the long run, I think if you take a very long view on things and relationships and helping others, it comes back in ways that you least expect. So that's what really helped me get off the ground, and then continue building, building Taazaa together.
Yeah.
So.
So now you have the company, you're starting it, you're doing work. Initially, were you having this vision of building a large team and building a large engineering team and all this, or did that kind of build brick by brick, or was it a combination? Like give us a feeling for kind of how the evolution took place.
Very quickly, I realized no matter how good I am, you're only so good. A team is so much better, and I'm sure there's 100 books on this, and all the amazing leaders have always said, together we can do a lot more. And I always believed in that instinctively. And as work started expanding, I started leaning into people who I thought would work with me. Some people who were crazy enough to take a risk with a one-person shop, and eventually I found my co-founder, who's my partner in India. He's like, we can only expand so much here. Let's try to do this in a way that scales. So we together joined hands and created our first garage team of 4 people.
Wow.
That's when we realized all very different. And the fun part is, after 14 years, they're still in the company at various senior levels. Still, we enjoy working together. So it's been a really fun journey in the sense that we've all evolved as the company has evolved. So
that says a lot that the original team is still together that long ago. What do you think some of the secret sauce is there? Like, what do you think are some of the reasons for that particular success?
I think the number one thing is respecting each other and letting everyone grow in the way and really looking at them as human beings that have their own needs and pathways to grow is very important. So and then having now, if the company wasn't doing well and grew as their ambition grew, I'm sure it would be very difficult to retain that team. But as long as the company was keeping pace with their growth and aspiration, I think it found a healthy balance there. And we also had a lot of trust in each other to, take it to that next step, right? And which is one of the core things of a good high-performing team foundation, right? So I think as long as you treat them with respect and wish for them what you wish for yourself, and then I think that it goes a long way. And I think that's what we want for most of our team. And we find ways to make every member, even if they're junior, we find ways to give them stock options, other ways to grow. We're always looking for beyond a job. How do you become a missionary from that mercenary? People join, hey, I got a great pay package, but then they stay for the love for the work, the possibility of what can be, and the ability to be part of a much larger story. So.
So now you're the leadership, the initial leadership team is there, right? And now you're thinking about scaling and bringing on more people. Like talk to me about that part of the buildup. Like, how does that take place?
So as we grew, there was other people who joined the team. They all bring their point of views. We're lucky to have a good executive leadership team in place now, which they basically bring in their point of views. And the key for us as a company, core foundation culture, is that you lead with empathy. That leads to curiosity and other things. So when you're curious enough to learn from others, and it's not that you have all the answers, and you know that you can seek answers and help from others, I think they really help solidify how do you go from A to B, right? I think one of my team members, he's basically said, things break in threes, right? When you're 3 people, when you're 2 people, it's a different dynamic. When you're 3, it's different. When you're 9 or 10, it's different. When you're at 90 plus, you're different. Once now that we are closing to 400 people, it is different. So at each level, we have to be thinking about what assumptions we had at a previous state that no longer are valid at the next state of the business, and how do you structurally creating that investment in the company so that we can grow in that way. So it's been a lot of learning, I think, from others. Again, as I said, started as a computer geek with a little bit of a hustle, but then you kind of evolve and learn from others, and you read a lot and learn a lot, and a lot from experience, a lot from others, and continue working with that core mission in mind. So.
How do you keep, I know one of the things that as we've talked about, one of the things that you've mentioned to me is happy developers produce better code. How do you keep your team happy, man? Like it's a phenomenal story, approaching or heading over 400 individuals, and like that's a huge accomplishment. There's a lot, and nothing against any small shops out there, anybody else, but their vision, right? Other entrepreneurs, but it's a huge accomplishment. It's like how do you keep people happy?
I think everybody's different, right? So I think you need to kind of align them along the vision and the mission that they're after, right? So obviously within our company, we have multiple product teams that are focused on various innovations. So some are in the healthcare space, some are in traditional manufacturing, some are in logistics, field logistics. It's very diverse, and each one has very different kind of requirements. People align with a mission, right? If we really want them to share in the success, we show them what does it mean to do what you're doing. So I'll give you a very simple example. So I can tell a person, hey, we need to have the vehicle show up on the GPS map at a certain location. A programmer can do that any day. But when you tell them, hey, when you do that, we can send a text message to a person who's going for his dialysis saying that the car will be there in 7 minutes. Please come down comfortably instead of having to wait in the heat or on the sidewalk for 20 minutes for the car to come. You can still sit in your home and then come down more comfortably and make it more easy for them to get in. That's what your code is doing. They then align with that mission of really making the life of a patient that's being picked up easier. And that's when I think they can see the greater purpose, because if you're all doing code, it's a very abstract thing, very hard to see, very complicated to build. But if they can see the impact of that on how it makes a difference in somebody's life, then I think that I think is one of the most important things. But along that, there's a lot of these things about that high performing team that we were talking about, whether it is a good leadership that creates psychological safety, provides trust and transparency on why we are doing, so that we're not misleading anybody. We are what we are, and here's what we're really trying to do, and we're here to support them and enabling them to get there. Right mix of the team. You can't have all superstars. The egos get clashed up. So you need the right balance of senior, junior. The right kind of roles. I don't watch much basketball, but if you were to think of point guard versus shooting guard versus center, the same way in a software team, it's very nuanced. Back in the day, you could have one IT engineer, like in Jurassic Park, controlling the whole park. That's really not true. Software is so complex. It's cloud native, it's distributed, and you have a team that's spread across the globe that's trying to collaborate to bring this vision together. There's so much complexity. So that starting with that trust, the leadership, the clarity of vision, what they're trying to do, what the impact is, those are important things. Obviously, and then the secondary aspect is there is a portion, hey, how does this make me money?
Yes.
What is the upside, right? Hey, if this company becomes successful, I can share in some of that success and maybe pay off my kid's college fee or pay off my mortgage or something that's impactful, that can be transformational. The balance of all these incentives in the right cultural setup, I think is very important and keeps them happy. We don't have 100% hit rate by any means, but we do our best to make that very employee-centric. So.
Speaking of culture and pulling off projects across many different cultures, time zones, countries, like any insight into what that takes, especially when working with like literally other cultures, I mean, not just company culture, like any insight into how you make that happen and make that work. Because I feel like after post-pandemic, there's many more people that are open to hiring abroad and otherwise in many different businesses that maybe in the past weren't. And these are some new challenges that entrepreneurs, I believe, are facing.
I think it is challenging.
Yeah.
It is time zone differences, cultural differences, language barriers. The key, I think, to start with is really see them as human beings and lead with
Mm.
empathy. I mean, you really don't know when you're speaking. I was one of our engineers was missing for a very critical release. I'm like, for a second, I was stressed because the client was very anxious about that new
Mm.
version of the software. I was like, what happened here? I was a little out of character. Happens from
Yeah.
time to time. I'm trying to be good, but sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
And they said, well, he had to go to the hospital.
Mm.
He had a premature delivery for it, and
Mm.
nobody. So if you don't see that for the person he did phenomenal work, but he had to
Yeah.
suddenly disappear for family reasons. We need to make sure we went the extra effort to make sure that he got the space to take care of all of that.
Yeah.
So I think the most important thing is see people for who they are, and
Mhm.
then once you meet them there, then it's a matter of appreciating each other's culture. It's hard, it's very easy to get xenophobic and say, Chinese bad, sorry, Indian bad, U.S. Americans are this way,
Yeah.
Mexicans are that way. To be honest, they're in general at the core. If you work with people from different cultures, you really appreciate the nuance that they bring in from their point of view. It is amazing when you learn about each other's cultures, the different
Yeah.
food habits, and you certainly start building that. Again, I never say that this is a family. It's more like a sports team, but we love each other because we enjoy working and
Mm.
getting the basket to the
Yeah.
bucket or getting the ball to the finish line. So seeing them for who they are, empathy, creating that, really taking the effort to know each other as a human being across cultures. It's not just if it's in the same.
Mm.
We do some work sometimes in Mexico or South and sometimes in India. You need to kind of see them for who they are. So long-winded answer, but ultimately,
No, I get it, and I like to say we're all human, and if you're working with that prefrontal cortex like I am, then we're all battling, and something's gonna come up. It's messy, business, human, messy.
yes.
Narrow it down. I want to jump around a bit here, Yasser. Go a little bit further. You mentioned what you're doing at Taazaa, but I do want to spend a little bit more time. Like, what type of projects do you typically work on? Like, I know it's a big company. I know there's a lot of bandwidth to do different things, but just you mentioned, I think, healthcare and some other niches. Like, for those that are at the end of this, I'm going to give the opportunity to leave, websites and stuff like that. We're going to put that in the show notes. So for people that want to follow up, maybe tell us a little bit more about Taazaa.
Sure. So I think we focus on multiple verticals. To be honest, we love a good challenging problem to start with. So typically we focus on the mid-market where
Yeah.
it has been around for 10 plus years. The leaders have grown it to a certain size and they've put together various technology pieces, whether they've hacked together Excel, Google Sheets, or
Mm-hmm.
they're using some CRM, but they're all siloed systems, or they're trying to bring a new product to market, which they know will make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
And they're mission minded. Very important for us to have that longer term vision. We're not mercenaries. We don't go in with we never say hire a person from us. We're like, we build a team for you, which will be embedded in your mission and be part of your mission to help you get to the finish line. So for example, we helped a healthcare screening company in Florida. They were all manual Excel and some Microsoft tools they would hack together to do their business. We built a bespoke platform for them. Their revenue jumped from 25 to like 50 or 60 million. Then they eventually sold. The founders and who was 60, 70 retired, very wealthy. But in the process, we built an amazing system that actually saved so many lives. They did screening, preventive screening, and we actually built a system where it would take them 21 days to do all that process manually down to 12 hours. Right? Somebody would be
What?
they would do screening, and we would stream that data, create the charts electronically, send it to the doctor, and they caught so many cases of high carotid arteries who had like a high 99% blockage. They would immediately call them and send them to the hospital, and testimonial after testimonial saying, "You saved our life. You did this." I mean, that is impact. I mean,
and that's huge. Like, so using your example, you said, from over 20 days to 12 hours to get that result back. And that can literally, and within that 20 days or so, unfortunately with the clogged arteries, like you're talking about literally that can save people's lives.
Yes. That's where we saw the impact software can have. Again, in some cases, it might be simply an annoyance in the office that
Sure.
takes hours to do something. Now it's taking 2 or 1. And you can use the remaining time to do more productive things that to the business, and thinking more from a person standpoint versus trying to do arbitrary TPS reports, as they put them. So I think if we find the right leaders within the company, sometimes it's a VP of engineer, VP of a product or operations who has a challenge and he wants to solve it. We go and help them streamline that through a software solution or a technology plus process solution, maybe. Or nowadays we are doing some new things with AI to help simplify. I'm not as worried about AI taking over yet. I've played with the ChatGPT. It's interesting, but it doesn't really. It may get there someday, but for now, I think it can take some additional nuanced tasks and speed them up for now. And if we can create unique models, proprietary models for enterprises, that would make a huge difference for them. Where they could move faster. So that's what we do. So some of the projects are, logistics, fleet logistics, IoT devices, where we are collecting a lot of sensory data, analyzing it. It can be in thousands and thousands of signals coming in every second. We do remote patient monitoring. We've done, medical transportation and pickup, and we build platforms for those, which are end-to-end products. And then we've done real estate tech, financial tech, money movement. We have a platform that grew from a little over a few $100s in processing to $1 billion a year in processing.
Wow.
We have to scale from, and at each level of scaling, things that we built broke, but then we found ways to scale it better and engineer it better, so it iteratively went on to do better.
Man, what an amazing story. And to think of, it all started with just that idea and moving up, building, creating a team. Like this is the dream of entrepreneurship right here. I love it. Yasir, first off, this has been great having you on the show today. I just have to ask, what's next? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for Taazaa? What's next?
So our goal is to continue enlarging our impact, right? Where we're right now touching hundreds of thousands of lives. A fun story. I was in New York on a taxi cab, and I'm looking at the app. I'm like, this looks familiar. He's like, oh, it's so easy to get my trips on this. This is early Uber days, by the way.
Yeah,
it looks familiar. And then I realized, oh my God, that's our app. Somebody's
Stop.
That was one of the a really fun moment for me. It was such a joy to see somebody.
You're making a difference in your life too. I love it.
So our hope is we continue to increase impact. We're obviously looking at growing in terms of the size of impact, the kind of projects we can take on. We've been able to. We started small. When you're starting, you do what you can. But now we are in a position where we can be selective and thoughtful about who we really want to help. We align with a lot of mid-market companies that have missions to make life better, whether it's in healthcare, manufacturing, logistics. These are the areas that we focus on because there's a lot of things that they do which actually impact their end customers significantly, but it's by making their operations better, whether they want to improve their CSAT score, operational efficiency, or innovate into new product categories. So
if somebody's listening or watching this, Yasir, and they want to follow up and they want to connect with your team, how do they do that?
Obviously, the simple way is to go to taazaa.com at taazaa.com and contact us, or they can just email me at yasir@taazaa.com.
Amazing. And for everybody listening or watching this, we'll put all those links in the show notes so you can just click on them and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe button. This is a daily show. Hit that subscribe or follow button. It's a daily show, bring at you new episodes each and every day, new entrepreneurs, new insights, hopefully new inspiration that's going to help you along the way and your journey as well. So we don't want you to miss any of those episodes. And Yasir, again, thank you so much. And man, wishing you much more continued success, from stickers in grade school to, come on now, a company of 400 people growing and doing great work and providing and literally saving lives. And the example that you gave for the medical niche, where you're helping to decrease the time in testing for the results to come back. So man, it's just an amazing story, one that I'm happy to bring my audience. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on the show. Pleasure talking to you. It's been fun.